South African inheritance. And by Princess Ngube, here's a paper, and he says other words for inheritance are legacy, heritage, birthright, or patrimony. The term heritage refers to the practices and traditions that are passed on from parents to children. A country's heritage could literally refer to its natural resources or extraordinary areas and unique plants and animals like St. Lucia wetlands and Ukahlamba Drakensberg parks in South Africa. Or it could simply refer to a cultural history captured in special monuments or anything rather important because of its history, artistic or scientific value, such as Robben Island, the cradle of humankind at the caves of the Stekfontein, and the ancient of Mapungubwe in Limpopo. Apart from the above literal meaning of the natural heritage and cultural heritage of a country, what else does South African inheritance rather refer to?
As we said earlier on, when we talk about South African heritage, there are many things that could be implied. But our focus here is on political heritage. The fact that we defeated apartheid, the fact that we have a constitution, the fact that we have human rights today, surely we can consider that as a heritage that we should be proud of.
Okay, so Mpho, you've got something to say about human rights, but before you get into human rights, I'd like us to look at the Freedom Charter, because it's one of the things that you've been emphasizing and mentioning, Patrick.
Yes, I have one salient point from the Freedom. Look, the Freedom Charter essentially has fed into the Constitution, and many of its points exist today in one way or the other in the Constitution.
So the first point says the people shall govern. Do you think that the people have really governed?
Yes, they have free elections. They can vote in their leaders. They can vote in the kind of party they want. And in that sense, the people govern.
So you feel like people are fully liberated, because sometimes I feel like the liberation struggle fought for civil rights rather than really for liberation.
Look, what's the difference between civil rights and liberation? We've got to go free. We've got to be free first before we can do anything. That's why I said at some point that political liberation, political emancipation is important, because it lays the foundation to emancipate in other areas. Gender emancipation. Recently we have Kwena, who was just brutally murdered.
Okay, so let's move to the second one. It says all national groups shall have equal rights. So according to you, Mpho, I'd like to know, do you think all groups of the nation have equal rights? Or there's still an issue of inequality?
I think there's still so much of inequality. Not everyone is equal at this point of time, because we differ. And in terms of for who you are, for example, where you come from and the language that we speak, some of the languages are denied. For example, as a teacher in schools, some of the languages are not really implemented, like vernacular. Certain vernaculars are not really implemented. So I can say that there's no such as equality.
And then moving forward, the people shall share in a country's wealth. Is the wealth in our country really shared?
Look,
because I feel like this is part of our inheritance, but we haven't really inherited what's written on this document.
Okay, in terms of sharing the wealth...
So the validity of this document is quite questionable, don't you think?
Look, in one sense, yes, because as I said, while we have political emancipation, we don't have economic emancipation. And it will take a while before. Look, South Africa now is sitting at joblessness, 25%. That's a very, very high figure. What joblessness does and unemployment does, it is almost a dehumanizing factor. If you cannot afford basics, if you cannot take your kids to school, if you cannot... These things are not good things. But the fact that we have political freedom is a good starting point to say, now that we have attained political freedom, now that we can vote who our leaders are, how do we move forward from this point? And I think that hashtag fees must fall is also one way of expressing how we should move forward.
Exactly. Touching on fees must fall, the next on the Freedom Charter says the doors of learning and of culture shall be opened. So are these doors really opened to all that live within our land?
Look, part of it is political, that everybody can go to school, everybody can choose the kind of school they want to go to. You can go to any of the universities and study. But you've got to remember that one of the things that takes you through school is the fact that you can afford affordability. And that's part of the problem that our students are facing at tertiary universities.
So what you're insinuating is that we cannot really claim that we have fully inherited what's written on the Freedom Charter, because yes, we say it's part of our inheritance, but when you look at the reality, we haven't even inherited half of the things that I mentioned here are not happening when you look at reality and look at society. I don't know why we sugarcoat stuff and not really call a spade and talk about what's happening in reality. I think people that hide behind the shadows and sugarcoat things are not doing anything, because you're saying we're having these conversations, but we're not really saying anything. We're just running around in circles and sugarcoating. Why don't you call a spade a spade?
I beg to differ. You see, we've got to start somewhere. We've got political freedom. Now that we've got political freedom, then we begin to move into other kinds of freedom, like economic freedom. See, these things won't happen.
But could you please define political freedom?
Political freedom is the fact that we're emancipated politically. We can govern ourselves. We can decide who rules. We can vote. These are political freedoms. We have human rights that allow us to do these things. I think these are political freedoms.
But now, this is also part of politics. I mean, the Freedom Charter is part of politics.
Yes, the Freedom Charter is a document that lays out that once we have gained our independence, this is what we are going to do. You've got also to remember that we are only 20 years. We are very
23
young,
years to be exact.
Very, very young nation. We can't claim to have attained everything in 23 years. Even America, that has had independence for centuries, I don't think it's completely free. Yeah.
So Mpho, you wanted to touch something on human rights as part of our inheritance. So could you please tell us more about that?
Okay, in terms of the human rights in South Africa, remember that it's protected by the South African Human Rights Commission. So looking at the South African Human Rights Commission is more like a protection to the rights, so that the rights are not violated. And it also looking at the Bill of Rights in South Africa that are in line, in which they're not neglecting vulnerable people, for example, children and people with disability. So it doesn't mean that the commission make decisions on what must be written in the Bill of Rights, for example.
It's a regulatory body, basically.
Yes,
it regulates.
Exactly. So it ensures that these rights are protected fully, and also that people are also not violated, or their rights are not violated in that regard.
Could you just please highlight a few of these rights that stand out to you as an individual?
Meaning the rights? Can you come?
Yeah, the human rights.
Okay. The human right that I actually find very important, firstly, is the right to life, which is the first one. As a human being, no one can take away your life, which is the first human right that I actually believe is very important. And the right to
education,
socio-economic rights also, in which you also inherit things like right to housing, healthcare, food security. You know, there's a theorist called Maslow. He talks about the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
That you cannot reach the self-actualization if you haven't started from the bottom. Like, you have to start with the food, water and everything in order for you to move with the hierarchy. So I think those are the important and essential rights for a human being. Then the rights to freedom of association also is very important, and also looking at also the rights of the right to expression, freedom of expression. But however, you know, in terms of rights, we do also have the responsibilities.
Yeah.
As an individual, you cannot just say whatever that you want because it's a freedom of expression. But you need also to have the responsibility of what you are saying, you know.
So these human rights that you say are part of our inheritance, throughout history, what have they done to sort of like change South Africa and society?
I don't really...
From your own perception,
Okay.
as a citizen of this country.
Okay, can you come again with the question?
You were talking about human rights. I was asking these human rights as an inheritance or part of the South African inheritance. What have these human rights done to change the lives of South Africans in society, from your own perception?
Okay, from my own perception, I believe that in terms of the change of the human rights, some of the people, they haven't really had that access to those rights. For example, if you look at the people who are maybe staying at the streets and so forth, their rights are not really fully catered for because they are vulnerable and so forth. I don't know if I said it in the right way, Patrick.
But I think a right is a liberty. It's their choice. Some people don't exercise their rights, so it's not really I mean, it's your right to or your responsibility to exercise your rights, and rights come with responsibilities, because some people have rights and others are unaware of their rights, of which they don't exercise. But now, Patrick, I'd like to ask, going back to the Constitution, because the Constitution is like the highest law of the country, which is part of our inheritance. So I'd like to know, has that inheritance been upheld?
Look,
within our leadership within South Africa as a country?
Look, the Constitution as a supreme law lays down how the people should be governed, what laws should be followed, what should be done and what shouldn't be done. For example, in the Bill of Rights...
But now, when we look at current South Africa and media and politics, we see that this highest law of our country has been contravened countless of times, but by our leaders, rather, that we've chosen in government and parliament.
I think that is true, but as you realize that South Africans are not sitting back, laid back and letting things happen in a way that they don't want. You have seen the many organizations, the many way people have gone on streets to protest that the Constitution must be upheld. You have seen how our courts, the Constitutional Court, has also come up to defend the Constitution. So I think in this way, South Africans are politically sensitive to what's happening, and I don't think they will let their inheritance be trampled upon.
So as this marks week 5 of African Insights, I'd like to know, what should the students expect this week, and what readings should they focus on?
The students should focus on the Freedom Charter and try and understand how it has contributed to the Constitution, and also read the Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights. In there, they will learn about their human rights.
Okay. And also that there are 70 tickets that are given away to the students, in which this for the module in African Insight. So the students are expected to email the course coordinator in order for them to get the 70 tickets. Which they are.
Could you please just clarify on tickets? Are these tickets that access them to the module?
Yes, they are going to give the students who are going. So it's more like first come, first serve.
Yeah.
So if you email the course coordinator, then you're going to get a ticket as a
Yeah.
student. Meaning that the students are going to go to the Market Theatre on the 24th of May, in which they are going to watch the suit for the legacy of Ken Temba.
Okay.
So yeah.
So could you just give the students the details of where they should be getting the tickets, or who they should be emailing rather?
Okay. In regarding to the students on African Insights, already everything is posted on Blackboard, and also the emails were issued out to the student email. Yeah, to the student email. So they can be able to email the course coordinator and they can get...
So since South African Inheritance is carrying over into the next week, what should we expect from the next week?
The next week, I've taken a positive spin on the Constitution and South African Inheritance, that we have something definitely good we can benefit. Next week, somebody who is going to speak, Princess, she is going to take a very controversial stance. But I don't like to spoil it. I want you to wait for that day and hear what she's going to say.
And she's very critical, by the way.
Critical.
You need to be very prepared. You have to, Princess.
Princess, what's the surname?
Mpho.
I like such people, you know. I like people that come prepared. Obviously,
She's going to challenge you.
Challenge me hard. This is not a debate. It's more of a conversation. I mean, I'm the captain of the ship.
I know.
You can never challenge the captain of the ship. But yeah, that's it from African Insight for tonight. Do tune in next week, same time, same place. But for now, good music and vibes coming your way. Do